Welcome back to the Shawaly Show. Today, I'm still with my friend Atif to explore lots of interesting ideas and concepts about the world, about AI, tech, and leadership. Today, we're going to talk about leadership in times of AI. Atif, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Thank you, Moses, for having me. Hello, everybody. It's great. It's excited to be back.
Yeah, that's great, man. Before hitting record, I really enjoyed our talks as usual. You have this thinking outside of the box mentality that I love and enjoy. And I really believe that the whole world should listen to your ideas and see your view of the world. Let's start a little
Mm.
bit. Let's start by warming up. What is leadership in your opinion? How can you define leadership?
Ah, um, Leadership. There is no one answer to that.
Yes.
Leadership is about leading people. Mostly, leadership is about getting things done through people. And when we talk about people, we talk about empathy, compassion, and quite literally, all the things that you get people to become more ambitious and achieve the tasks and work towards the common goal. There are tons and tons of definitions. So many books have been written in this topic. Um, and it's also perception of how leaders take their leadership. Each person has a different style, and there are models on that. There are frameworks to identify your personal traits and leadership traits, but it all depends upon how you are leading the people, how you are making somebody else to align with your goals, align with your objectives, and run towards those goals. So that's leadership in summary.
In a nutshell, that's very good. So, what is a good leader? Is the good leader is somebody who can inspire. As you said, there are many theories. There are many people, motivational speakers or corporate experts who have different opinions about leadership. But in your personal opinion, what's a good leadership? Have you ever had a good leader? Have you been yourself a good leader? And what did you do in order for you to become one?
Yeah. Well, a good leader is always the one who takes care of the people. And I have had many examples in my personal life where I was, many years ago, I was learning my self leadership. I got into a role of leading people many years ago, and all of a sudden I was leading a team of a group of about 80 plus people. And for the first few months I thought that my success would be the best execution of my would be the best execution of this that. But after first few months I realized nothing was working really. And then I realized, no, it's not actually the plan, it's actually the people. So if I take care of the people, people will take care of the plan. So from that point onwards, I started really getting myself invested into people, understanding their problems, helping solve their problems. So they are running tasks, and a good leader, their job is to give them the vision, give them the roadmap, and then walk with them throughout the period and remove the roadblocks in front of them. That's what good leaders do. And there are multiple traits of good leaders. There's on a scale of transformational versus transactional, and there are always two spectrums: when to be assertive, when to be empathetic. Uh, and there's a very good book that's written many years ago. It was about wartime CEO versus peacetime CEO. So if you are a very transactional leader, you are a wartime CEO, and that is needed in certain contexts, in certain examples, in certain situations when the chips are down, when the things are going south, and you have a problem to solve it, you can become a transactional leader. But when things are smooth, that's where you turn out to be a peacetime CEO, and you do the same things but differently. A good leader, in my opinion, is the one who understands when to apply what behavior or what leadership trait or what leadership style in what situations. So a good leader always know to be a transaction or a transformation or all 8 or 12 or whatever model and framework leadership styles you are looking for. A good leader always know every aspect of leadership, of personalities and leadership styles. And on top of that, a good leader always know that when to apply which leadership style. That's what makes a good leader.
It's very interesting when you talk about people. When we think about people, we think about student, we think about culture as well. Does leadership change depending on the culture? Is there a difference between leading a team of a multinational team of different cultures, a diverse team, as opposed to a one culture team, in your opinion, since you worked internationally?
Yeah, that is true. Culture is a very fundamental part, and many a times many projects or strategies fail because of either good culture or bad culture. Many leaders, they fail or succeed based on what kind of culture they are building up in their teams. And culture is a two-way sword, is a double-edged sword. It's what people are grown up with, the environmental, the geography, and the ecosystem they are in, and then also the culture of the organization, what kind of values and mission statement you are running with. So what kind of culture you embed in the organization. And there's a very famous saying. They say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And that is true. The first challenge for any leader, if you join into any organization as a in a position of authority or a position of power, your first challenge would always be what kind of culture you wanna build into this team.
But now you're talking about organizational culture, not personal culture. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So there's organizational culture, there's regional culture as well. I will talk about regional culture as well. So organizational culture, what I was saying that when you join as a leader into any organization, your first challenge is what kind of culture there is and what kind of culture you want to embed into that organization. Of course, there's an influence of the regional culture as well. So, for example, the culture of Japanese people is so humble; they will not say anything to offend you, right? And that's their culture. Even if something goes south, something goes down, people in general in Japanese region would rather take a humble approach towards that. But as
the leader,
to if you go to yeah, but in comparison, that's a 180-degree comparison. If you go to Germany or Dutch, there are people are more blunt and more straightforward, cutthroat ruthlessness. Um, but in their culture, that's normal, that's acceptable, that's appreciated. If you give me a direct feedback, that's appreciated. But if you give a direct bad feedback in let's say Japanese culture, for example, it may turn out to be something not acceptable, and people may not be comfortable with. So there is regional culture as well. Now, in an organization, if you're working in a global organization that has a headquarters in Netherlands and also have a regional office in Japan, how would you build a company culture that addresses both? And that's where your mission statement and values comes into play. You do want to embrace direct feedback, but you also don't want to embrace that people get offended. For example, there's this culture in Netflix that if you are not performing, there's a on the spot feedback, right, straight to you. That's very blunt, and in that ecosystem, it is acceptable and appreciated. So you fix the problem right there and then you move on to the next topic. Many people like that culture, many people don't like that culture. Similarly, Microsoft has its own culture, Google has its own culture. Every big companies, and if you take list of all Fortune 500 companies, they all try to embed a sense of culture that is productive, that is progressive, and that is helping people to get their task done more efficiently.
and I'm asking because some people would say that homogeneous teams are stronger, culturally speaking, like coming from the same region or same country, are stronger than multicultural teams. Now you have the regional culture, but then you have the organization culture. Don't you think that that could be a challenge to for a leader to manage a multicultural team? And so you mentioned, yeah, it's very important to let them know that to make them aware of the company culture, and then that everybody would accept. But at the end of the day, people tend to fall back on their personal culture, the things that the traditions and the understanding and mentality they grew up with. Which one is that true? Does this is the statement of homogeneous teams are stronger and faster than multicultural ones, right? Correct?
To some extent, yes, and to some extent, no. The answer truly is that how do you address those cultural norms? There are certain elements of a culture that must be adopted, and there are certain elements of the culture that can be avoided. Uh, and here's the example I give you. Yeah, there's a book called "Negotiate Like a Local." Author is also a LBS alum, and he came to our class and he was talking about culture. He started with a game, and the game was like the entire class was split in group of five, and each group was going onto one desk, and each desk had playing cards and a rule book. Uh, so the condition of the game was that you can only read the rule book once, and it will be taken away, and you are not allowed to speak while you are playing the game. So everybody, the group of five, when they reach the table, they all read the rule book and memorize the rules before starting to play, right? So everybody goes in their designated tables, they read the rule book is taken, now nobody can talk, it's silent. So they start playing the games, and the cards game, usually it's scored games and everybody was scoring. After like uh, 2 or 3 rounds, the professor says that, okay, now the top two players of each table goes to the next table. So we said, okay, fine. The top two players of went to the next table, and they started playing. Since there are no rule books given and you are not allowed to speak, the top players of table one went to table two and started losing because they were playing by the same rules that they had. And then we realized that every table had different rule book. So the rules with which you were winning in one situation or one region or one organization, you go into the next one, you are not allowed to speak. Nobody's gonna sit with you and tell you how things are done here. And if you continue to play with the same rules, you will lose. And that's the moral of the story. You go into one from one region to another region, you go from one organization to another organization, you will always have new set of rules, new set of cultures that nobody's gonna sit and explain you, uh, but you will have to learn along the way. So that's the impact of culture. Now, coming back to your question, is it difficult? Yes, it is. Is it good for the homogeneous teams or the heterogeneous teams? It depends. Now, for example, I'll give you one more example. When we come to the class, we all read case study before coming to the class, and at the end of the case study, there's a question that the protagonist, was he an effective leader? For example, if there was a leadership course, and everybody is coming up with their own opinion about how things should be done, how things could have been done, and this is how he did right or wrong. And when you are reading that case study, you think that, yeah, you have mastered this topic, you understand the entire thing about what the situation is going on. But the moment you step into the class and the professor starts asking the questions and debates, every single one of the members in the class, they start saying their opinion, and then you realize, oh my goodness, these people are smarter than me because they came up with a opinion or something which I never thought of. So I was limited by the self-limiting beliefs, or as you could say, my own experiences of my past experiences of whatever, and my opinions and my approach to that those problems were primarily based on my experiences. But if somebody is coming from a different background, let's say shipping or oil and gas or finance or multimedia, they come with their own experiences, and in the light of their experiences, these problems should have been taken a different approach. So that sparks a new conversation. So in my opinion, heterogeneous teams, if you are in a creative environment where you are going to spark new ideas, where you are going to solve new problems, where you are going to look for new challenges, then probably heterogeneous teams are more effective because every single person will have a different background and different perspective to approach the problem. Um, so in that system, in that setting, probably heterogeneous teams would be more effective. And then on the other side, if you are working to solve production deployment problems, and then of course everybody has to be software engineers in a homogeneous environment, that everybody's on the same page, looking at the same problem with the same lens and trying to solve this problem. So work. It may work well with homogeneous teams. So as a leader, what do you do? As a leader, your job is to understand the problem, is to understand the plan, and use your resources to their strength.
Yeah, exactly. Did you face any issues working with in Dubai, but before going to your executive program in London? Well, London is very multicultural. In Dubai, you worked as a consultant for a big company, and I guess you were working with different teams, different nationalities. There are the challenges that you faced, but also the opportunities that you thought, okay, this is a good thing. I'm glad I'm working with a multicultural team.
It's the perspective. Like I said, working with multicultural team and people coming from different cultures, Dubai is a fantastic place. It's a melting point of different cultures. I had the opportunity. I was privileged to have worked with people from very diverse backgrounds, coming from Latin America, coming from Europe, coming from Asia Pacific, coming from Northern America, and everybody had different perspective, and that really solved a lot of problems. And many a times when you are in a situation or in a position where your job is to solve the problems, your job is to bring operational efficiency by solving problems, then you gotta look the situation from different lenses, and each person's comes with a different lens and different eye set, eyeballs, and see the problem very differently to come up with a very different solution. I'll tell you this example. I remember, if you know Agile Scrum, and when Scrum was being built, the model and method, they had a. I read it somewhere. I don't know how true it is, but somebody in that group said that we should. So the debate was having meetings. How should we design meetings that are more effective and more efficient? And everybody was pitching in ideas. Um, there was somebody who said that let's do meetings in elevator. And now, as an idea, it may sound ridiculous, but they still wrote it down. And when they were evaluating those ideas, that let's double click zoom in what that means, then doing a meeting in an elevator means so many things. For example, it is a limited space, so limit the meetings with only limited people who are going to add value in that. Number two, everybody's standing. So okay, let's do the meeting, everybody's standing up, nobody's sitting on a chair, everybody is standing, so that attention span is on your toes, so you react faster. And the third thing is that lift have a very small span when these people come together from one floor to another floor. So keep the meetings short to 15 minutes. And the result of that was 15 minutes daily huddle. That's part of the Scrum model. Um, Now, in a 15-minute daily huddle, you only have the squad, no more than 8 people, usually. You only talk about what you did yesterday and what you're going to do today. That's it. No more, no less. And in the end, what is the roadblock you have right now for the next immediate task? And who in the team can help that? So these basic 1, 2, and 3, 4 questions, and to the point answers. Finish the meeting. 8 people each have 1.5 minutes to speak, and then 30 seconds to get a response from. And then within 15 minutes, you're done. And that's very effective. And you keep doing this daily over and over again and that's very effective. And that's how it was designed back in early 2000s, and now Agile Scrum is applied in mission critical environments like banks and aviations, and that's the future of software product development. So just imagine where the idea came from: a kid talking nonsense about doing a meeting in an elevator, but translating to something so impactful that even mission critical environments are used. That's where I say different cultures, different lenses, different experiences can spark something different.
That's amazing, but then you need to be willing to think outside of the box or outside of the elevator, the lift, right? So
Yeah.
it's very important to be open to different perspectives and have an open mind, keep an open mind towards any problems or topics you're working on. Now I would like to start talking about my favorite topic, AI,
Yeah.
since we live in times of global historical revolution. To start with, I would like to maybe ask you if you think AI can help leaders or change leadership on a global scale, on a local but also global scale, and in what way?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, so many ways. So leaders have multiple things to do, right? So there's a part of the plan that they first build the plan as a strategy, roadmap, whatever you may call it, and then there's execution of that plan. So building the plan is like maybe 20% of the effort, but the execution of the plan is 80% of the effort. Um, and then when you go into execution, there are so many redundant things that comes your way that is creating roadblocks in your team and in your daily life. So number one, AI can help really resolve those roadblocks because of the repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
Many are things that you can find as repetitive. You can use any LLM model to optimize that and and make it recurring through automation. That's one part. Second part is how you can improve your customer efficiency. So you can involve AI talking to customers and getting early feedbacks. You can do bunch of data analytics on customer behavior, what customers are doing to your, for example, if you're in a product setup and you're in a software as a service business, and customers, you're direct to customers, and customers are using your products and services and they have problems, and they report your problems back to you, and then it's like finding a needle in a haystack because it's very difficult. That's where AI come into play to do the data analytics for you and understand where the problem lies, what is the repeating pattern, how you can solve that. If you are into banks, let's say, for example, you are working with a bunch of data, and those data points are collected from various different sources. How the data points are collected, how anywhere where you are using data, of course AI can help, because understanding and skimming through and combing through the data and finding the insights on the information and knowledge and wisdom is where AI comes into play. And I think we were talking earlier about this as well. So in my opinion, now organizations earlier had chief data officer, then data translation to information, so chief information officer. Then some organizations are now having chief wisdom officer. So
That
yeah, taking that insights,
yeah.
yeah, taking that data into information and insights and trying translating that to wisdom. And then our organizations should have chief intelligence officer. That intelligence should be artificial intelligence, as well as behavioral intelligence, as well as organizational intelligence, as well as human intelligence. So your organization intelligence is the your practices and procedures, how your organizations operate, what are your values, what are your policies, how you run the organizations. Then combine that with human intelligence and artificial intelligence backed with the data. So chief intelligence officer may just be a new job coming up into the market, wherein you use intelligence to address problems and solve the problems.
Exactly. I think a chief intelligence officer might need a chief wisdom officer because again, at the end of the day, I believe that we wisdom is necessary, especially when you're using AI. As you said yesterday, you said AI is a tool. We do not fully rely on it, but we use it as a tool to advance our work, to make us more productive, or to boost to just to get rid of repetitive tasks. So yeah, as a leader, AI and AI driven insights and data based decisions are important. But at the same time, you need to use your own human wisdom, right?
Y-
So we cannot delegate our human wisdom to AI, at least for now.
Yeah, yeah. Because there are certain things that machines cannot do, at least yet. When we talk about human intelligence is coming from, of course, we seek data through five senses: watching, sense of taste, smell, and human five senses. Machines can only do at the moment see and hear, cameras and speakers and mics. The other three senses are not there: smell and maybe taste.
Yeah.
There's a startup called Boston Dynamics. They are working on it. Probably they are getting closer um, to have the sense of smell or taste. But until then, so how human brain works? Human brain takes data points from all these five senses and process that based on the historic data that we already have, and then we come to a decision or wisdom to apply on whatever we are doing. Machines does the same way. They take inputs from the context window, and then they have the data sets, data points, and then they process the information to make new discoveries and answer the problem. Um, Now machines are limited because they can't do empathy, they can't do mercy. If you ask a machine justice over mercy, it will always do justice. So mercy is the element that humans can do, machines cannot as yet.
Exactly. Just I think machines have been fed with words as well. Lesser data sets that have been fed with are based on language,
Yep.
right? But our experiences, based on what you said, are they are formed from five sources, the senses, which means, but not all experiences have been. As humans, we haven't been able to to verbalize them in words, put them in words. But like some things you might like remembering the smell of something or a memory that certain smell can bring to you. You cannot really put it in words, but
Yes,
yet it plays a role in how you make decisions, how you see the world. So machines are still limited in that sense.
that is
Um,
true. Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's only a matter of time. When tech startups would come up with a mechanism for machines to understand the other senses like taste and touch or smell, that's when probably machine will get a sense of empathy or compassion. I remember a friend of mine did this exercise. He was building a model, and he fed that model with all the scriptures from or all the moral philosophy or ethics word from Socrates, Plato, and Kant, and the entire moral philosophy into the model, and then started asking model the questions like trolley problem or and that what else kind of problems, and then machine really couldn't comprehend, and it would still come back to the situation of answering the question with another question, right? Is that moral philosophy or is that ethics, that there's no absolute answer to anything and everything is it depends upon the context and the situation. um does it fall into, coming back to the problem of justice over mercy, or mercy over justice? How he ended that experiment without a conclusion, as a matter of fact, because there's still a long way to go for machines to understand and comprehend how human brains work.
Exactly. How it works. Topics like spirituality might be hard for machines to understand as well, which is
Yeah.
a very important topic. Very good. Now I would like to move on to talk about how AI driven insights, okay, let's before talking about this, do you think we should compete or are we at some point going to be competing with machines? Should we see them as competitors or as allies? Should we be worried about AI taking over the world or not? Because there's a big debate about that.
Yeah. Well, I think AI taking over the world is still a science fiction. Yeah. If you remember Terminator 2 movie, Skynet goes rogue, and then there's Person of Interest TV show, Westworld. There's so many scientific, the iRobot, and pretty much Elon Musk is coming close to that with a humanoid robot and self-driving cars and whatnot. But AI taking over the world is still a far distant, in my opinion, science fiction. Um, as long as we are properly governing it, AI goes on to the none of that things that shown in science fiction films are wrong. They are scientifically true. Like if you see iRobot movie of Will Smith, this is factually true. So yes, there are certain challenges, but yes, you have to be able to that. Um, AI take over the world. That's yes, it's taking over the world. Most of your tasks are now being done by machines, one way or another. If you take yourself 20 years or 50 years back, there was hardly anything that you were doing with it's just as example, like back in the 90s, then Microsoft Excel or Lotus Notes came to being. People thought that bookkeeping job is going to be lost, right? And accountants will lose their jobs. Yes, bookkeeping is no longer there because Excel sheet takes care of it. But are accountants out of job? No, accountants are more in need, and they are making a lot more money than they used to make in 1990s, right? Because of Excel sheets. Uh, so imagine that technological advancement, bookkeeping like a register with printed columns and graphs, that is not there anymore. But accountants, the job of an accountant is more evolved, and they're more effective and efficient in terms of things they were doing. And because of they were efficient, we are able to do a lot more things that we couldn't do back in the 90s, right? You were still using checks to go to the bank and withdraw cash. Now with Starling or Revolut Bank, you just tap and pay. And AI is just like that. 20 years fast forward, you will be doing many of your tasks with machines, and you will not notice that how the life was before that. Um, it's just that you have to use it. You have to think that this is a tool. This is not my replacement. This is not the replacement of my job. This is a tool that will help me make my job more efficient.
That's very interesting. However, news are saying that a lot of people, 50% of jobs as we know them are going to be lost to AIs. As a leader, how can you balance, staying competitive in the market with keeping your human team? How can you use AI effectively to boost your production, but still, keep your team? It's might, team members. Isn't it a bit tricky? Do you think really how is the AI going to affect the job market around the world in the next few years? Now we're talking from now till in the next 5 years, for example.
Yeah, it will. So to answer your first comment that AI is going to take up 50% of the jobs, um, but I see that as a statement, AI is going to remove the 50% of the jobs, and AI will increase 50% new jobs that we don't know about, right? So take that example, 1990s bookkeeping, very highly paid job. Now that job is no longer there. But accountants using Excel sheets and making more productive, it is more effective job now. Um, Similarly, for example, software engineers,
Yeah,
AI can write code in fraction of a second and do exactly as you asked it to do, unlike
debug.
any other programmers that you have. Um, and does that mean software engineers will be gone, or there will be something new that software engineers will be making?
But what you just said, sorry, excuse me. What you just said actually means that everybody needs to educate themselves on AI. Like it's going to be like a
So
very
that's a given.
essential year. Like it's learning to read and write, right? So
Yes, that's a given. So, regardless of whichever industry you are in, and regardless of whichever role you are performing in your organization, you must equip yourself with how to use AI to make your job more efficiently. So
AI literacy.
that is a given. That without that, you will be out of job.
Yeah.
So the only people who will be out of job will be the people who don't know how to use AI. So that is for sure. Now, how to use AI to make your job more efficient is, um, take example of software engineers, take example in leaderships, right? So in the leadership, if you are a product owner and you bunch of software engineers, you're building a product and you're writing code. So AI can write better code than a software engineer. It can better integrate multiple codes than a group of software engineers. It can better debug the code than software engineers. So does that mean as a product owner or as a leader, I would fire all my software engineers and just use AI? Then who's gonna prompt that AI to do what it is supposed to do? That is the level of software engineers it is going to be, right? So yes, if you scale that back in the day when I was a software engineer, I used to write code on C++ and C sharp and COBOL, Fortran. Those languages are gone. Now Python and all the new languages are becoming more and more native human language syntax than programming syntax. So software engineering today is easy, maybe not, because there are more better compilers, better platforms to write even better code.
Yeah.
The result is the kind of output you are having, you cannot you have that kind of output back in the day. So it's the efficiency that is growing, not the replacement. So everybody needs to understand that in whatever capacity I am in, what are my tasks? What are the things that I'm doing in my daily job today can be automated with AI. So if I am 20 times productive today with AI, I should be 100 times productive tomorrow. That does not mean I will be fired and an AI machine will be doing the 20% of the job still. No, you're not supposed to yield 20-point output. You're supposed to yield 80 points outcome because you now have a more efficient tool. So, and the mindset change. That's a progressive growth culture, progressive mindset that yesterday I was doing this much, tomorrow I need to do that much.
It's more of an abundance mindset. I think as a leader, instead of thinking, how can I replace how many people on my team can I replace with AIs? Instead of thinking like that, you should think, how can I 10x or 100x their production, right?
Exactly.
To everybody on the team, but what is the best way to integrate AI in my company, in my organization, to make sure that this same number can produce a million X, the outcome or the out should be much more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, take example of Amazon.
Yeah,
Amazon warehouses, there were people handling the packaging, right? Now, robots coming into play and AI coming into play does not mean those packaging jobs are gone. That means one person who was doing 10,000 packages in a day is now able to do 2 million packages in a day at a very large facility.
yeah,
And the job of that person is even less hazardous, less exhausting, less effort, less stressful, because that person is just managing the robots, right? So like I said, for any business, if you are the business leader, you are generating $1,000 or $1 million in revenue with 20 people in your team. AI does not mean that you replace 20 people, save that cost, and still generate 1 million. No, AI means you use AI with the same 20 people, you generate 20 million instead of 1 million.
exactly,
That's the mindset.
exactly. Now, we before the today before we started recording, we income. So some people who will have a hard time adapting or coping with AI or learning AI might lose their jobs. Many international leaders are talking about a universal income to pay these people to make sure that they are still, you know, having a decent life. What do you think? What's your opinion about this topic? And how should it be implemented? Would it be a good idea? What?
Uh, the 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 knowing of any idea is good or bad, there's only one way to find out. You implement the idea and then you find out if it was good or bad. And it can go either way. It may create some kind of slacking into the people that, yeah, I'm getting money, I don't have to work. And at the same time, people who are underprivileged, who are cannot cope up their learning curve as per the AI, they might need some assistance. So it can go either way. And even if there is some kind of system that would make universal standard based pay to everybody, that would require a lot of regions and cultures and people and governments, and everybody need to be have been involved into that. What you can do, like now take example of human beings, the only difference between us as human beings and any other creature or living being in the entire universe, and I'm talking about plants, animals, birds, single cell organisms, any single living being in the universe compared to human beings have this ability to evolve. No other being has this ability to evolve as much as we have. And and that's the ability humans can and do. So with AI coming into play, or minimum base pay, or education, the growth mindset of human beings makes it the evolution possible. So if you are of course all sorts of people in the world, some might like it, some might not like it, but inherently human beings have this thing of evolution that no other species have. So we will evolve eventually. Today, just 10 years ago, everybody was talking about blockchain. It's the industrial revolution, and blockchain is coming to take over the financial system, and it is changing the industry. And now anybody's talking about blockchain. Everybody's talking about AI, right? 10 years later, maybe 5 years later, it will be artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, yes.
Humanoid bots would be thing. And then possibly we might end up into natural intelligence, which will be human-like intelligence.
And quantum, not to mention quantum computing as well.
Of course, as quantum computing is again, so ability for AI machines do stuff. It takes cost when you write one query in ChatGPT. It takes enough amount of energy that is good enough for a household in the United States for a whole year.
And once we solve that problem,
Yeah,
the energy problem, I think we'll move much faster, right? And that's what they are working on. I mean, many companies nowadays are working on
yeah.
finding alternatives to traditional oil sources or energy sources.
Exactly. That's a whole big topic. Probably another episode of energy and where we stand upon. You might have listened to Eric Schmidt's Stanford talk, and he was saying we need to be very good friends with Canada. And why does he say so? Because Canada has Niagara Falls, and Niagara Falls is a natural dam that you don't have to construct anything, and it's a continuous flowing water throughout the year, and you just keep generating electricity out of it. There are so many renewable energy opportunities in this world where,
Africa.
yeah, yeah. Sub-Saharan desert, Sahara desert, if you put like 200 of solar panels, that's good enough to power the entirety of United States. So just multiply that by two, and then you have the entire world. So there are so many opportunities, and then technology and AI is helping build solar panels and renewable energies and wind blades more and more cheap. And the installation and the logistics, the maintenance is more cheap thanks to AI and machine learning. So energy is a whole different topic. But coming back to the evolution and coming back to how AI is impacting leadership and organizations and businesses is where you have to embrace it. You accept that, and then you use it to your advantage.
That's very good. Is there risks of, when we talk about risks of bias in AI systems? Because AI is, it's a language model that has been fed with ideas or previous ideas of people who might have their own biases or, big models, a lot of information. This might include, have inherent biases in them. Is there any threats? How can leaders make sure that they are aware of those threats, and how can they, when integrating them into their corporate systems?
Yeah, that is true. AI can be biased, and of course, it's we call it.
Google, for example, like the woke Gemini, when you asked Viking, draw me a Viking woman, and then you had Viking black or Asian Vikings, and because the model itself was trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Wasn't accurate, but it was inclusive.
Yeah. So it depends. Really, we call it data points and dark data points, and based on the data it is fed with, on the model it is trying to comprehend with, and then based on the prompt, how you are prompting that. Are you defining it enough details and context to how to approach the problem? If you ask a Gemini or image creator to create Viking, it may create an Asian or a black looking Viking. But if you give a specificity, like create a Viking from medieval times who is running in, I don't know, jungle. So then probably it would be relatively more accurate based on the historic data. So it all depends upon the data points. It also depends upon the prompt context you are providing to the in the prompt, and that's where biases come from. Sometimes, even besides biases, AI hallucinates. Like it thinks and says things that doesn't make sense. So that part is also there. So that's where human intelligence comes into play. So you don't fully rely on machines. Yes, you can rely on a machine to self-drive itself, right? When you are driving a car, there are 10,000 variables that are going into your mind. Yes, all of those variables can be programmed and fed into a machine and car can drive itself safely. But there are certain things where machine is generating some kind of an output, and that could be either biased or hallucinated. That's where human intelligence comes into play. That's where after the outcome of the AI, you apply human intelligence and refine that, and and then proceed with it.
Exactly. That's why it's important to have this critical thinking present at all times. You just delegate your brain. You don't give away your brain to AI, but you have to keep it on. Like have a look and always be thinking critically.
Yeah.
Very For a leader, where to start if you want to drive digital transformation in your organization? If you want to implement AI in your organization, what would be the first natural step towards that?
Well, first natural step is always to start with the why. Understand why you're doing what you're doing. Have a out of what are the things that happen in your vertical, your department, your team, your organization, your business. And then once you have the understanding of what's going on and where at which step there are roadblocks or which steps can be optimized or efficient, can be made efficient, and then you drill that down and then understand that particular process or mechanism, and then try to automate that. AI or not so with AI, you can still use some kind of apps or certain automated mechanisms to make that efficient. And then you see the entire assembly line, once you will have optimized each and every step, then all of a sudden you know that your business process that was generating 100,000 in X amount of time is now generating 1 million in less amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And that's how digital transformations work. You understand what's going on, and then you identify areas of improvement, and then you apply it, automations and all the policies and practices and workflows and to improve that.
Is there any ethical issues that need to be taken into account when using AI or transforming your organization? Yeah.
It does, and it depends upon the context you are in. For example, if you are giving AI, for example, if you are in a recruitment pos- uh, position and then you are hiring, so you have to teach the model that to exclude the biases of gender or ethnicity or ethnic origin or these kind of governed and controlled variables. You have to teach the AI to exclude that biases and then look for the candidate on the merit of the job description. So yes, there's ethical challenges there, and um, quite luckily, fortunately, we do have compliance and all of the things in place, where we have, in a very clear black and white policy that you can do this and you cannot do this. You should do this. You shouldn't do this. That can be fed to the AI and made use of.
Very interesting. What did I forget? What did we Is there anything else we need to talk about or we haven't covered when it comes to leadership in general and then leadership in the AI times of the AI?
Well, there are so many things. One of the things I would like to mention here is my professor used to say this a lot, and it is what got you here won't get you there.
Mm.
So what got you here is your skills and abilities, and your knowledge was good enough to get you here. If it were good enough to get you there, it would have gotten you there,
Mm.
and that there would be here. So what got you here won't get you there. So in order to go further, you have to learn something new. You have to be progressive mindset. You have to have a progressive mindset. You have to learn and adopt and in a continuous learning phase from a tall person becoming a learn it all person. The case study we study is Satya Nadella of Microsoft. See how he turned around the Microsoft, and people call him the Michael Jordan of tech CEOs because he's on the spot. And he somebody was telling me that when Facebook came up with this, when Meta came up with this Oculus and a metaverse, Satya Nadella was the first one to send email to his executives saying that, hey, Facebook came up with this something really interesting. What do we know about it?
Wow.
How do we learn about it? How do we learn from that? And he's Satya Nadella. If you see him on YouTube or other places, you'll find that person is the person who's always learning, and that's what made him invincible. Because if you continue to keep learning and you're always better than everybody else.
And it's
But
not an option anymore. I don't think
yep,
it's a
yep,
like right now, if you really want to stay employable, you need to be ready to you have to be constantly learning
yep,
because that the technology is moving at a such a pace so quickly that if you don't stay up to date, you're just gonna stay behind, right?
yeah. That is true. That is true.
Okay, so that's it for guests.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And what would you like us to talk about in the next episode? What do you think we could? Our
Well, they say sky is the limit, but I say sky is just the beginning. So there's a universe out there that we can talk about, and it really depends upon what audience would like to hear, and some of the topics that are going on into the industry. It gives me an opportunity as well to learn along the lines. So I am excited. Let's see what unfolds next.
It's true. The best way to learn is to teach.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and talk to you in the next episode.
All right. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.